Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. Today, I'm going to talk about the 5 most common mistakes Taiko players make when playing Don Doko and how to address them. Let's go. I know some people watching don't play Taiko and won't know what Don Doko is. So, real quick. Taiko players use what we call kuchishoka, which is sort of a verbal notation. It tells the player what to play and where on the drum to play it. So if I said to a Taiko player to play Don Doko, they would know to play the 1, the 3, and the 4 of a 4-count phrase on the main head of the drum at about an average volume. There's a lot more I could say about kuchishoka, but for those who are new to Taiko, that's enough to get you through the rest of the video. Don Doko is one of the most popular ji-uchi you'll find in Taiko. I would even argue it's one of the most iconic. It's got energy, it's driving. Some people refer to it as horse beat, and if you listen, you can hear why. Unfortunately, Don Doko is also very unforgiving, and a lot of things can go awry. So let's take a look at some of them. If you asked a non-Taiko player to play Don Doko, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, who knows what they would come up with? They would play whatever was instinctual for them. Maybe they'd alternate between the right and left hand. Maybe they'd start on the right and double the left. Maybe start on the right and double the right. Maybe they'd play all of one hand or the other, who knows? But in Taiko, most commonly patterns start with the right hand. Sorry, lefties. You can think of Don Doko as 2 patterns in one. Hit, rest, hit, hit. So that would be right, rest, right, left. Right, rest, right, left. Don, Doko. And so on. Now, this is something that easily gets accomplished with practice, with time. Almost everybody winds up figuring out Don Doko being right, right, left. But it's not to say the other variations are wrong. If you have a song and someone says play it this way, that's the right way. In fact, Kodo has a really cool song called Aoki Kaze, which does alternate between right and left hand. And you can hear slight tonal differences between it played that way versus the way that most of us play it. Going back to the analogy of Don Doko being horse beat, I like to think of it this way. Either I control the horse or the horse controls me. And you see this happening all the time. Person is playing Don Doko, and before they realize it, they've gotten a little faster than it's comfortable. Etc. It starts to fall apart, or it gets to the point where it's not fun to play anymore, especially if you're playing with an ensemble. The best way to address this issue, practice with the metronome. And I know that's probably the least fun you can have in practicing Taiko, but you can mix this up and make it a little more interesting by picking a song you like at a tempo that works for you and just playing along to that song. It's the same drill, but it's a little different. It's a little more fun for the ears. The third mistake on our list is when the downbeat, that first note, has a bit more oomph, it has a pulse on the 1 versus the other 2 notes. So it might sound like this. Sometimes you can see it, sometimes you can hear it, but it's more than the other 2 notes. The way I think of Don Doko, which is not how everyone thinks of it, is 3 even notes. Not 3 loud notes. For example, what if I said, hey, play this pattern. Don Doko, Don Doko, Don Doko, Don Doko. You would play alternating loud and soft, even though the notes are Don Doko each time. I like to think of it even because it helps me keep those notes even and not add a little bit of extra in certain places. The drill I have to address this, I'm going to talk about at the end of the fourth mistake because that drill addresses both of them. But remember, 3 even notes, not 3 notes that just happen to be loud. Dropping the second note is really common when people play Don Doko fast. I'm going to alternate between playing it evenly and dropping a second note. I want you to see if you can tell the difference both visually and audially. Just to make sure everybody knows what happened, it's the difference between Don Doko and Don Ston. Now the Don Ston pattern is a great pattern, but odds are that's not what you're trying to play. I have seen very good taiko players who realize that they're playing that Don Ston Ston Don, and the response is to play everything louder in the hopes of bringing that quiet note up a little bit. Problem is, it rarely works. Usually it just makes the louder notes louder, and the quiet note doesn't really go anywhere. Not helping. The drill to address the last 2 mistakes is really simple, and it can be a bit of fun. Take a Don Doko, any tempo, any volume. Let's just say a moderate one for now. After a little while, take the left hand away, and what you're left with is isolated right hand. You're really able to hear if the dynamics are even or not. If they're not, well, you can fix it here. If you can't fix it here, take it slower. Kick it to a tempo where you can fix it. All right, that's perfect. Bring the left hand back. And then go to the next tempo. Well, let's say it was fine where it was. Same thing, bring the left hand back and go to the next tempo. And you're just incrementing a little bit at a time. You're not trying to jump 10, 20 beats per minute. Eventually, you'll hit a wall where you find your right hand isn't doing what you want. Great, now you've isolated, that's a trouble spot. Bring the tempo back. Just like I said before, you're preparing, you know what to expect, so make sure it's good before you go to the next tempo, and if it's not good, come back. You can stop, you can shake it out. That tempo, that problem area is not going to go away. You've identified it. So here's a quick example of what that might sound like. And so on and so on. If you've ever taken a workshop with me, which I highly recommend, you'll know how much I talk about relaxation and how tension is the taiko player's worst enemy. San Jose Taiko has a song called Spirit of Adventure. It had a position in that song which was probably my most favorite position to play in the entire repertoire. Upstage center was a large chudaiko sitting upright that was played with bigger than normal bachi. You started the song by playing Don Doko at a fast but quiet pace, and you crescendo and decrescendo and repeat over and over, and eventually you get to a point where you're playing at that same fast tempo as loud as you can until the end of the first half. This position brought with it a special kind of pain, a burning in the shoulders that eventually would spread down into the fingers every single time. The only way that I was able to push through and play at a high level was to learn that I needed to relax way before I felt the burning. Because by the time I feel that burning, it's not going to go away. I can mitigate it. I can sort of stop it, but it's eventually going to press through and win. So how do you learn to relax, given that Don Doko is one of the biggest generators of tension out there? Well, you get noodly. What do I mean by noodly? I mean let things go, let everything go limp and wiggle around like an idiot. Yeah, like an idiot. You're not going to do this in a performance. You're going to do this probably when no one is watching. But I used to do this during drills in the group because I didn't care how I looked. I was focusing on relaxing. So for example, your turn. I realize some of you are thinking I've lost my damn mind. That might be the case, but that doesn't mean the drill isn't effective. The idea is to get rid of tension everywhere in your body, not just up here where it's going to start. It's always going to happen sooner or later. But your body is not an isolated entity. It's connected. Tension here creates tension here, which creates tension here. It's all connected. If I can keep this loose, if I can keep from locking my limbs and building tension, then I'm more likely to prevent it from happening here earlier. It's gonna happen, but it won't happen as quickly. If you're focusing on Don Doko, first and foremost, and you make sure that that stays solid, then you can move a little bit, probably without affecting it too much. Eventually you find out how much you can move and what you can move without destroying the integrity of Don Doko. Eventually this comes in handy, but again, you're not going to do this in a performance. Well, I'll take that back. You're not going to do it the same way. So I might do this in practice. But in a performance, no, I'm going to do this at most. That's something you're not going to see. It's taking a big motion that's exaggerated to teach the body and paring it down for the actual execution when you need it. And it's not only good for Don Doko, it's good for everything you do in Taiko. Another thing you can do that's a lot less silly is to breathe. And I don't just mean breathe so you don't pass out. I can do that. You can do that. I mean really fill your lungs with air. Open up your chest, coming up a little bit, and then let it out. Think of yourself as that connective entity I mentioned earlier. You're gathering all the tension up and then you're exhaling it through the vents in your feet. Go with me on that, okay? The idea really helps you feel like you're getting rid of something, and that's tension. You're getting rid of tension you don't even know you have yet. Again, you're not going to do in a performance, but you get used to the exaggerated motion and it becomes a lot easier to do a smaller version of it with the same effect during a performance. Some final notes on Don Doko. You have to control it or it will control you. So practice it. Practice it fast but quiet. Practice it loud but slow, or any combination of those. Practice starting with your non-dominant hand to lead. And not only will it strengthen that hand, but you might observe things that happen in Don Doko that you didn't realize you were doing with your dominant hand because you're just used to playing that way. But you have to practice this outside of a performance. That's the only way it's going to get better. But practice by isolating the right hand, by making all the notes even, and by relaxing. I guarantee you your Don Doko will get better if you do those three things. Before I end the video, I want to acknowledge that previous rudiment videos that I've done have been in a slightly different format. With those, I kind of started from the ground up. I talked about small details of technique, and then overall we kind of built things up. This time, I took a more overview start, and I talked about the things to watch out for. Either way, you wind up at the same destination, but I'm really curious to find out, which way do you prefer? Let me know in the comments below or find me on Facebook or on Gmail. If you learned something, if you liked it, let me know with a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the perfect time to do so, because of reasons. So until next time, keep on practicing and be well.